Hi, I'm Madeline from Machine Slings, and this is the Freerider Sierra carrier. So first thing to say about this carrier is it's light, it's soft, and it's really beautiful. It's clearly been designed by someone who has a real eye for fashion and making things look sleek and gorgeous. But does that equate to a good carrier? Well, let's find out, and let's go through this carrier from the bottom upwards. I'll go through it in detail, all its pros and cons, and then at the end I'll tell you what I think. So let's start with the waistband, and the first thing I noticed is this waistband is really, really wide. One of the widest waistbands I've ever seen. If I get this where it's comfortable on my body for it to go, click, here, you will notice that actually I really only just about have space to accommodate this width of waistband between my pelvic bone and my ribs. I literally only just have space. Now I have a really long torso and I am tall. I don't see that every body type is going to be able to accommodate such a thick waistband, particularly if you are more curvaceous, more curvy, or you have a shorter torso. You may struggle with how wide this waistband is. It is also worth noting, I sort of see if I can bring myself up higher, that in the manual they show this one all the way down on the hips for a lot of people. And if I try and do this, I try and loosen off to do this, here we go, no, I'm twisted, that's why I can't loosen. If I loosen off and put it down here, I can do that, but it doesn't sit flat on my body anymore. And the result is it feels really heavy if I do that, so I need to have it on my true waist to get a great loading onto my hips. I also find things that when they're sitting on my hips don't actually put the weight on my hips, so things need to sit on my waist, and I find that's true for nearly everyone. It needs to sit on your waist in order to put the weight onto, to sort of sit the weight onto your hips and onto your pelvic bone. So I can get this nice and snug and it sits quite nicely on me, but that's not going to be possible for all body types. So now, the other thing to say about this waistband, and this is really unusual, is you'll notice the panel comes out of the middle of it. So normally on most carriers, the panel comes out of the top. Baby sits here and the panel comes out of the top, and that allows the baby's weight, because it's sitting above it, to then be spread across the entire waistband. On some carriers, apron style carriers, the panel actually comes out the bottom, and again baby sits into it and it allows it to spread across the whole waistband. This panel actually comes out the middle, and I've never encountered that before and was quite curious. Actually what I'm finding is when weight is sitting here in the middle, it sort of drags at the waistband, and the result is, if I push here, when I've had a heavier child in this, I really start to feel it on my back and it's starting to tip. And actually, interestingly, when I went through their manual and went through all the promotional pictures, you can see that the waistband has tipped in every single one. And if you're familiar to my channel and you've checked out my reasons your carrier is giving you back pain or tips for great for a carrier, you'll know the importance of getting that waistband to sit parallel to the ground. So while I can see why they've done this, because it allows to accommodate this super wide waistband, because if it came out the top, baby would be sitting too high, and if it came out the bottom, baby would be sitting too low. I think it was a misstep. I'm not sure it is working, because the load bearing doesn't seem to be quite right. The next thing to say about the waistband, and this I do quite like, is hidden inside this waistband we have a width adjustment system. So if we look in here, I can adjust the width of this carrier along this slider. So right now it's set up for a relatively small baby, and I can slide it along to get wider as my baby gets longer in the leg. And I can also adjust the height of this carrier. We have a panel adjuster head support part here, and also an infant insert, which actually again is quite nice. So if I pop this on me again, I have to say there is also a safety elastic here, and the idea with this safety elastic is we should have it put that way, and then when we have the buckle done up, we can stretch it over the buckle to hold that in position. It looks like and feels like a hair elastic. I'm not sure how much it does. I can still tighten and loosen with that on. I guess then if I undo it, yeah, it's held a little bit. But I keep forgetting about it, and then I keep not being able to get the buckle done up because the elastic is caught inside. So compared to other safety elastics where they usually have it in a different position so it doesn't get snagged in the buckle, I'm finding the hairband style elastic a little annoying. Anyway, I was going to talk about the infant insert. So this is quite nice. When you're not using it, it actually just clips here. They've got like a little magnet inside. So it just, and you don't have to think about it, and it doesn't move because it's magneted in the right place. But when you have a newborn, this comes up and it poppers in here through some very heavy duty poppers. And again, so that just creates a little pocket, you know, it means that your new baby doesn't need to sit into any of this. They sit directly here, and it shortens the whole carrier and rises them up. And actually, because it comes out the top of the carrier, you get way better weight bearing with this. So I tried this with my friend's 8-week-old, and actually it was really great. And then I took it off and tried it with an older baby, and it was much heavier because of the less good weight bearing with it coming out of the middle. So nice for that age. I'm going to, however, take this off. You can see these are really heavy duty poppers. They're not going to come undone unless you mean them to. And then I'm going to let that magnetic back where it belongs. So let's grab a slightly older baby. Let me check I'm on the width I want to be for them. I say baby, this one is a doll. I've tried this with real babies, but right now I've just got my dolls with me. And let's move up the panel. So as we move up the panel, next thing to say, the panel itself is really light and soft. It's this lovely Jacquard fabric. At the moment it only comes in the one colour, but a really lovely, really soft, really strokeable, beautiful fabric. And it really does smooth across baby's back, so I like that a lot. And we have lovely legs out padding, so it's nice soft foam padding here for baby's comfort. And then as we move up, I'll come to the head support at the end. We move up on the shoulders. We have quite narrow shoulder straps and nicely softly padded. Padded for quite a long distance down, but lovely and softly padded. And I can wear this carrier can be worn crossed or H, and I will show you H in a moment, but we'll do crossed first because that's my usual preference. So this comes round and it can be crossed. Again, beware the hairband elastic. So we can click that in, we can put the hairband elastic, and now this is one of the unique selling points of this carrier. We can hide the buckles. So literally there's like a deep pocket in here, and we can push the buckle in before we tighten it up, and then we can tighten it up. I'm finding to tighten it up so it doesn't just pop out, I have to physically hold it in. I have to, you sort of clip the fabric over and physically hold it in, and then you can tighten it out like so. I keep forgetting and they keep popping back out. Oh, you're a little bit too low in this, so let's, here we go, adjust that so that baby comes up a little bit higher. I should say I am showing this with a 4-month doll, so probably only just grown out of the infant insert part. So I am having to tuck quite a lot of fabric, but it does show that the panel is quite long, so it's going to fit for quite a long time in terms of panel length. I think realistically this carrier is going to quite happily fit from 6 to 8 weeks all the way through to 18 months, maybe a little longer even, maybe 2 years. So now I've done this up, let's talk a bit about the shoulder up. See, I had pushed this in and tightened it up and they just popped out, and then it was too loose. So let's see if we can push it in again, tighten it up a bit more, and then it's going to pop out. Somehow I can get this side to disappear and not this side. It's one of those things that actually I don't care about whether you can see my buckle or not. But if you bought this because it had the disappearing buckles, you may find this frustrating. So the next thing I want to say about the shoulder straps and the carrier in general is where these buckles come in. It is really high. On most carriers, this is here. It comes in here, and the result is, because it comes in here, if you are wearing it cross-strapped, you can get a wider shape across your back. Because they come in so high, the cross is really high on my back, and this is not comfortable for me. I am someone who prefers cross rather than H. I have a back that just feels more comfortable in cross, and this is not comfortable. I am not comfortable because it is coming so high, it's putting all the weight on my upper back, I'm hunching. Where I would be more comfortable is if I loosen these up, is if I moved this down and move this down. Now, that is much more comfortable, and you can see if the carrier came into here, this carrier would hold that position sustainably and comfortably. Sustainably and comfortably, but because it's having to go round and back up, what happens is as I wiggle and move, that is going to go straight back up to where it wants to be, and the carrier is going to start to feel loose, and I'm going to tighten it, and I'm going to be in all sorts of pain because this is eating the top of my neck. So that's a real shame, because they offer cross straps, but in practice I can't get the cross low enough on this carrier. And it's interesting because another consultant who loaned me this actually fed this back to Freerider, and she said, oh well, you can't get the cross lower on other carriers either. I have a YouTube channel full of me demonstrating getting the cross lower on so many carriers, the Manduca, the Ergo, the Beco, like millions. So yeah, I find that really frustrating because it would be such a small change and then it would be comfortable. But they do also offer H straps. So let's have a quick look at that. I'm going to slip my baby out. So the first interesting choice when it comes to H straps is to do H straps, we have a buckle along here. Normally it is a buckle. Freerider have taken the choice to make a very beautiful and fashionable looking, but slightly pain in the bum, D-link style strap. So I have to thread this, and it is worth saying there is no way you're going to do that behind your back, and they don't suggest you do. They suggest you do it in advance, and then they suggest actually do the entire carrier up and then you slide your baby in. And in fact they do the same for the cross as well. That's a totally valid method, and if you find that easiest, absolutely do that. I don't generally teach that way because it's all too easy when you're threading a baby in to end up with what I call a sling-shaped baby. Whereas when you put baby in first and put the carrier around you, it's easier to end up with a baby-shaped sling. And I am forever aiming for baby-shaped slings because generally parents and babies are more comfortable when the sling has moulded around baby's natural shape and their natural shape. But we can still do it because I can throw that over my head like a t-shirt, and I could have already had these done up, or I can do them up as I am doing right now around me and baby. And then as I start to tighten this, and it is worth saying with this strap you can make it tighter or looser, and you can move up and down the sliders. Because this is so high, this comes straight under my arm and is annoying. I can feel the webbing here and it's irritating. And if it came in lower, it would come under here and I would get a better load bearing. I would get more weight bearing to my mid back rather than my upper back, and it wouldn't bother me under my arms, but it is. So yeah, so let's talk about what this carrier can do, and then I will talk about my thoughts and the price. So what can it do? So as I said, it goes from around 6 to 8 weeks through to 18 months to 2 years. It can do the inward position, which I've shown. It can do an outward position, which I will talk about in a sec. They don't advertise a hip, but I have tried it. It actually is quite nice, and I will put pictures in the review on my blog when I get to that. And it does a back carry position. It retails at 188. What do I think? I think it's a crying shame. It's a beautiful carrier in many ways, like the Artepoppe, which retails at 333. I have so many people asking me about carriers that look like the Artipoppe, that have a similar sort of design to the Artipoppe, but maybe don't have the Artipoppe price tag. And I was really hopeful that this carrier would be that. And sadly, it is not. And it's so close. It's a crying shame because it's so close. A few things like not having such a ridiculously wide waistband, not having the weird load-bearing issues that come from having it come out of the middle. Just moving this down by this much would make this carrier comfortable and would make this carrier worth that 188. And I genuinely think worth 188 because it's really well made. It's really well put together. I'm stroking this because I've realised I've not talked about it. It has this really nice head support panel extender. What I really like about it is this stitching, because if you want to support the back of baby's head without covering their face, you can literally put this up on one side, and the stitching will allow you to do that because it allows it to crease along these lines. Hang on, my poor baby keeps slipping in, as I mentioned. They're a bit in between sizes. So I can there, and then it flips onto here. And we have all these little gold detailing. They feel really nice. They don't feel plasticky and fake. They don't feel like this is going to come off and they're going to look shit in 2 weeks. They look and feel really nice. So if this carrier just fitted better and just gave that flexibility of fit more, then I would think, because it has a high-end look, it has a high-end feel, then I would think, hey, 188, if you're going to use it all the time and you're going to wear it and be comfortable, it's worth it. And it's definitely cheaper than the Artipoppe. But actually, in practice, because of those really small things wrong with it, you're going to be uncomfortable. Well, I'm uncomfortable. Most people are going to be uncomfortable. And as I said, if you, depending on your body shape, if you're more curvaceous than me, it's probably not going to fit you. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that when I was in crossed, if you prefer crossed, I only had this much webbing left. And I am a size 12. So I could see that it would fit a size 14, a size 16, but it's not going to fit over that. In crossed, it will fit in H, but it's not going to give you the option of crossed. And if you're someone who finds that more comfortable, then it's not plus size body friendly. And conversely, if I really get this snug enough, I haven't got loads of tightening space either. And again, I'm about UK 12. And so if I was a 10, I could tighten it. If I was 8, I could probably tighten it. If I was below an 8, if I was very petite, probably can't get it tight enough either. So it isn't the world's most, I feel like there's some things that could be done very easily to make this a really great carrier, but it's not there at the moment. And consequently, I won't be purchasing one for the library, and it won't be something I am recommending because it's going to be a really small subset of people who it fits. And even then, I don't think they're going to get as much use and be as comfortable as they could be if if those things were changed. And yeah, so in terms of how it compares to other carriers, definitely its closest comparison is the Artepoppe. I have one last thing to show you. I realised I said I would show you outward facing. The closest comparison is the Artipoppe, and actually I still think the Artipoppe is much more comfortable. I don't want to think that, it's too expensive. In carriers that are more around this price range, the Ergo, Tula, all going to be more comfortable, all fit a much wider range of people. And actually, again, I have issues with the Artipoppe not being size inclusive either. Ergo and Tula far more size inclusive. So yeah, I think that's where my recommendation would be rather than this carrier. So just before I sign off, I'm going to show you the outward facing carrier. You will notice I did absolutely nothing to adjust this to put my baby outwards, because there isn't anything. I have scoured the manual. There is nothing to make this less wide. It is quite soft and it does scrunch down, but it means that my baby's legs are holding that material, that scrunching, which means they are being subtly forced out and stretched. When you look at other carriers that offer outward facing, the Artepoppe has a strap that runs inside to hold that tension. The Ergobaby has sliders to make that narrower and hold that tension. The Tula has buttons to make that space narrower and hold that tension. The Freerider has absolutely nothing. So in my opinion, should not advertise that it does outward facing, because it doesn't. They are not making any adjustment to allow their carrier to outward face. And so baby is being stretched. Baby is doing the adjustment. But I don't know. So again, I have very big reservations about that. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions about this carrier, any specific questions or any general questions, if you would like help finding something that works for you and your family, please get in touch. Either comment on this email or check me out on sheenslings.com. I would really be happy to help. All the best.